very welcome guests. Please ask any questions. Don't say can I ask, the answer is you can. You can record, you can take photographs, get videos, whatever you like. I'm really committed to giving you as much information as you want. We may never meet again, so ask away, get as many facts as you can. I do the tour mainly because I learn things. I'll be interested in your comments and feedback and stories that you want to tell. We'll start here, we'll go through the house, finish off the back, and we'll come inside and I'll talk about my mistakes and costs and how you can do it. For the last 20 years, energy and water bills here for 4 people have been less than $200 a year, $300 rather, and anything you see today you can buy and have in your house or project, office or unit anywhere in the world really, the next couple of weeks. It's really off-the-shelf stuff. So don't think that you're talking with or visiting somebody who's special and just like you. You don't have to be, you know, my boy was 6, my daughter was 10. I couldn't say to them, well, you have to go to UTS and get a degree before you can leave here. So it's really empowering ordinary technology. What's your name, ma'am? Yeah. Oh, that worked right, didn't it? Can you just step back there near the car and you see up there a grey cabinet? Yeah, that's my battery system. We're going to go up there and look at that, but if you scrunch over near Jody, or you might be able to see it, there's a grey cabinet on my fence, and if you look at the roof and compare it with the 2 and other adjoining properties, there's no wire coming to the house. In March last year the wires were cut, and since then all the electricity has been from the sun and has been stored in the batteries. The house is still connected to gas, and that's where the $300 comes from. It's about $300 a year for gas. So let's go and look at things. When you come in, just put your bags and whatever's on the table, because it's a small house and you need to have your hands free. Come on in. It's the switches are just the same as at your place. You don't have to be different, you just have to be who you are. One reason for pausing here is to see how things have changed and to show you how I'm just a little boy. So over here is my little boy's trophy. This used to connect the house to the grid. So I trophied it, and it's my futuristic cockroach sculpture on the wall. The other reason to pause here is to look at this table as much as we can now. Thanks for putting your bags on here. It's from a weed tree that we try to eradicate in Australia, called camphor laurel. So it shows that there's no such thing as waste, just a failure of imagination. This tree has been turned into a really lovely table. And the other reason to pause here is to look at these lights. And look at that one there falling out, and this one here dead. This is yesterday's technology. This is compact fluoros and bright lights that came straight on while that one, the fluorescent, is still trying to warm up, is today's technology, LED lights. And I have these here to show what can be done. There are 1 billion fluorescent lights in the CBD. It shows what we can do if we move over to these lights. They're about, they last 15-20 years. You can get them with warranties for that length of period, and they use probably 60 to 70% less energy. How am I doing? Can you hear me okay? Any questions? So it's a nice way to do it. What we're going to do is divide into half, because my balcony is quite small. So what's your name, ma'am?
Darling.
What? Say again?
Darling.
So from me over to, how do I say it?
Darling.
Darling. We're going to go up to my bedroom. It's not often you get asked to somebody's bedroom within seconds of meeting them. And you other guys are going to stay here until we come back. I'm going to lead the way. It's really important that you've got a hand free, because it's steep. The stairs will be allowed today. We're going to go up here and look at the batteries. So you guys talk about the meaning of life. And I'll come back.
Maybe that one. Alright, I think we'll stop there.
So just one person is stand at the back. We'll get short people in the front. That's you. Very good. Scrunch up. Thank you. Hello. So, tall person, if you can come over here just now, you can see that what's coming out, is that about 1,000 watts?
Yep, 1700.
Yeah, and the blue line shows it's not connected to the grid. It's going into the batteries. What are the and what's the percentage?
97%.
So the batteries are 90%. We've got 1,500 going in. There's a bit of energy going into the house. These lithium-ion batteries each hold 2 kilowatt hours. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 12 kilowatt hours of stored energy. This is the key part of the inverter. Can you remind me to talk about the inverter when we get down? I just want to talk about it once. So basically this technology is really efficient. If this was a lead acid battery system, the old system, it would have taken up the whole of the balcony and crashed through. It would have weighed 1.5 tons. This only weighs 380 kilos, so it's light, it's very compressed, and you can program it, whereas you can't program lead acid batteries so well. I'll talk about cost and everything once when we get downstairs. So keep your hand free for the handrail, hold on to the handrail going down, there's no falling over, okay? And I'll get your questions as we go down. Can you ask everybody else to come up?
Yeah, of course.
No, thanks.
He's sending it to the grid, he's collecting and storing it here and using it himself, which I think is very sensible. So everyone's starting to be...
The money that you save, like, you know, I know for myself, like paying, where I'm at the moment is okay, but in an older house that I was paying electricity for, I was paying like $700 a quarter, that's every 3 months, just on, and it was a 1-bedroom place, and it was just that it was old, and I don't know, I think someone was stealing that, it must have been.
That's really
It was
That
expensive,
thing only that's $10,000.
yeah,
Box.
yeah. But it's sort of, I guess it's, in a way, it's like you're empowering yourself, you know, like you're not relying on other people for, you know, to dictate the cost of energy, you know, these types of things. So it's sort of, it's in your control.
Sorry.
I think it's also like
That's
cleaner.
okay.
It's cleaner because the electricity we use is burned from oil and
Yeah.
while we just collecting the sun's power.
Yeah.
I think after a few years it's worse to have it, isn't it? Like from the money it once equals
Yeah,
and
then you have
then
to long
Yeah,
term
definitely,
investment.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's an investment at first, but after a while it gets better.
Yeah.
It's also worth it for like your peace of mind, like
Yeah.
knowing that you're not like contributing that much, like you're contributing less to global warming.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I love hearing everyone's opinions on it. Like, you know, like you were saying, you know, you know a lot about, you study IT and biotech, you know, so you have a lot of, you know, knowledge in this sort of area as well, which is interesting.
System cost $17,000. Now it's down around about 12. So there's a huge drop in price. When I put my solar panels on in 1996, they cost $26,000, and today the same system costs about $2,500. Huge drop in solar panel prices, and they're dropping even further. And because there are 1.6 million houses in Australia with solar, there's a natural existing market for people to also buy the batteries. Were there any other questions about what we saw upstairs or so far of any kind?
What's the life expectancy of the batteries?
The warranty is 10 years for the batteries, some expecting 15, something like that. The panels I think have a 20-year warranty, something like that. Yeah. The key part is the inverter, and I made a mistake with this one. I tried these things on myself. All I do is design and get approvals for sustainable water, energy, sewage systems, and I like to try things that I knew on myself. This system is not the key to any of these solar systems is the inverter. This inverter takes all the energy through it, and a battery lasts longer or less long depending on the number of times it's charged and discharged. A better inverter, when, say, I do the washing during the day when the sun is full, would bypass the batteries and take the energy straight to the appliance, thereby not discharging or charging the batteries and increasing the length of life of the batteries. So do ask lots of questions about the inverters. For example, if you want to get just a solar system and save your money until batteries come on, it's almost certain that you'll be quoted a low price for an inverter, but it will only work for the battery, for the panels, and it won't work with batteries. So a heads up, when you're getting quotes on solar, try to get quotes from people who specialise in off-grid, for two reasons. One is they're more experienced with a different range of products and materials, and secondly, they're going to give you a better product and service because it's in their business interest not to have callbacks, and off-grid people know if the system's not performing because they don't have the energy. Ausgrid did a survey of 8,000 houses in New South Wales with solar a few years ago, over 4,000 of which weren't producing the amount of solar that they should, and the householders didn't know it because they were connected to the grid. Does that make sense? Any more questions on what we've seen so far? Yeah.
What was the reaction from like the government or anyone else when they actually learned that you wanted to like absolutely cut off from the grid?
All right, that's a great question. Thank you. I did this in 1996. As far as I'm aware, it hadn't been done anywhere in the world. So it sort of was decidedly weird. It wasn't just the government that thought it was weird, it was the builders and the plumbers and everybody. But to protect myself against bullying from the government businesses, the energy and water companies, I had three things going for me. I used to be a lawyer. On a long journey back to rejoin the human race. So I knew what my rights were, and I didn't go on what people say, which is, even today, usually wrong. Like, you can't drink rainwater, like you can't reuse sewage. All that stuff is wrong. Secondly, I knew that I needed to protect myself as a matter of politics, because, as your question suggests, I'm a threat to the business of government-owned businesses. They own coal, they own power stations. On the one hand they say we're going to save the planet, on the other hand they say no, we're going to make money and kill the planet. So there's a lot of political reality to your question. So I got the Premier to launch the project, which gave me some political armour plate between me and them. Notwithstanding that, Sydney Water, for example, so remember I'm disconnected from water and sewer, no sewage or stormwater has left the house. In 20 years I've kept 2 million litres of sewage in my back garden. I'm going to go out there and see if it stinks. Notwithstanding that it's been on CNN, Al Jazeera several times, all that sort of stuff, Sydney Water kept on sending me water bills, not for water and sewage, but fixed charges. And I wouldn't pay, and I got tired of being sent notices that they were going to disconnect me. Like, you know, they should get out more. Watch television. So one day I undid the water meter and took it into their office, which was there in the city, with a note to the managing director, who at the time was Dr. Kerry Schott, and I knew she knew nothing about this. So I had a note attached to the water meter saying, look, can you stop sending me disconnection notices? And stop sending me bills. And I knew it wouldn't get to him, so a couple of weeks later I got this constipated phone call. Look, I said, why don't you come up and have a look at the site? And they came out, no smiles, and we sat up the back, and I just explained to them what I'm going to explain to you. And they said, we're going to do a smoke test. I said, that's a great idea. And their faces fell. They thought that I was being fraudulent. They couldn't imagine a world, you know, they thought that the gods had created Sydney Water, that Sydney Water is a part of the naturally environment of Earth. And when I said great, their faces fell. They thought I was being fraudulent. It's really interesting how people can go into silos in their mind or in work or governments and imagine that that silo is the whole of the working universe. So that's a long answer to your question. I'm sorry I went on length, but basically I didn't just have to educate Sydney Water, I had to educate hydraulic engineers, architects, engineers and so on. And do things which I have to say I've been teaching at the School of Engineering and not taught at the School of Engineering. Except it's interesting, isn't it? Even now you can go and talk to staff and they say you can't do it. Anyway, here we are. Any more questions? Yes.
How realistic is it for a household to completely disconnect from power and electricity? And what are, if it's unrealistic, what are the most realistic ways we can basically reduce?
Right. So, I'm serious, you would not want to live with me. I'm lazy. I can barely drive an elevator, man. So here we are, 20 years later, no one dies. My water's been tested in conjunction with New South Wales Health every 2 weeks over an 18-month period. And every count, my water here in this dirty polluted city is cleaner than town water. My water here, off the roof, is cleaner than the water you'll get in your tap. Cleaner. I'm going to show you how I get it. For a fitting it cost me $22. So that thinking that you've got to go to the city to get clean water is wrong. All I'm doing is what farmers do every day. 2 million Australians drink rainwater every day. No one's died drinking rainwater. 2 children in North Queensland died because they ingested water through their nose. Their parents were spraying the garden with water straight from the dam where cattle and sheep excreted, so the water had fecal coliforms in it. And this passage is less robust in that we humans than this passage. And this goes more or less directly to the brain. And they died because they got a germ into their brain. But drinking water, no one has died. And 2 million Australians plus drink it every day. So in terms of somebody living this way, I've been here 20 years, my children have grown up. My son, unfortunately, is much taller and more handsome, narrowish hips and broad shoulders compared to me. My daughter's beautiful and teaching, both gifted, went to Con High, didn't seem to suffer from drinking water or putting up with my slackness.
Realistic aspects we can take home, basically.
Today?
Yeah, like...
Actually, I'll cut to the chase on that because I usually put it out, because it's so hot outside, it's nice and cool here in this house without any air conditioning. The house changed my life and I stopped practicing law and I do this without qualifications. I work with people who do have qualifications, engineers, architects. And I wanted to win the tender to do Google's new offices in about 2008 or something in Penrith. And I constructed the tender after reading about Google and trying to understand the company's philosophy. And I discovered that Google is passionate about healthy local food bought directly from farmers. And the design of the building reinforces that they have lots of places for people to eat local food. So in the tender, I said that I would introduce local farmers to the project, give the food as part of the work conditions at the site to the chippies and the carpenters, and pass on the relationship between the farmers to Google's income caterers. And we won the job, although we weren't the cheapest tender. In the course of that, I discovered that the house was trivial. I'm just sucking my tummy now. I won't stand profile. It's too big. My tummy uses 20 to 40 times more energy and water than does my house. Google had 300 workers then. A modest breakfast of a small pound of yogurt, tomato, slice of bread, some bacon, and an egg has embodied in it over 1,200 litres of water. So for breakfast, that's 300 people times 1,000 litres of water, that's 300,000 litres of water. The food Google for breakfast, again for lunch and dinner, 1 million litres of water a day to feed Google. Extraordinary, isn't it? So if you put a water efficient shower head into a typical Australian household in the city, with 4 people it will save over 60,000 litres of water a day. But if you, do you want a glass of Chippendale champagne? Okay. By which I mean rainwater. Yeah, so the growing, production, transport food. So if you buy local food, or you don't eat red meat once or twice a week, just you will save over 60,000 litres of water in the food that you eat a month, just you, compared to the shower head. It's interesting, isn't it? So food is not on the register, but you don't get a bill saying how many kilos of carbon your food uses or water. But food is the greatest thing, and that's why I've written a book about it. Anyway, we're here to look at things. What else to look at? Can you go through a wall of fear and turn the 3 switches off? And we'll come in.
We've got one keen question over here.
No, I just sorry.
Just here.
Hello.
I just wanted to know if you run out of water at any.
I run out, depending on the seasons, between 2 to 4 times a year.
Okay. And what do you do?
Although with my son gone, I'm not so sure. And I run a hose from the next door neighbour's rain tank and drain it by gravity into my tank. And the next day it rains. So I'm a rainmaker. Good question. But so for 99% of the time, I'm okay.
Yeah.
So long as my son doesn't kill me. Any more questions? Okay. Follow me and having fun?
I actually genuinely want to know. Like, I know.
This was why we renovated the house in '96. The kitchen used to come here and we moved it out a metre because with 2 young kids it needed to be bigger. You're welcome to come in here and scrunch up. Well done. Good initiative. Well done. So, yeah. So when we did that, we also set some goals for the kitchen because it's the most used place in the house. One of which was that for most of the day, for most of the year, we could be here and not turn the lights on. That's achieved with a pale ceiling, pale cabinets. The floor turned out to be too big. But this is bouncing light in, and if you look at this, so do these guys. They bounce light in. Of course, the light hits there, goes up there and goes right over there. And they're basically light shells. The other thing we did was use energy efficient appliances. So, ma'am, can you turn those 4 switches on, please? Somebody else has to go through a wall of fear and operate the solar energy system. Excellent work. So these 4 lights use less energy than one 100-watt incandescent bulb. So we've got more light, but we're using less energy. Most of what we'll be looking at today is about efficient use of natural resources, the sun, or the air, or appliances. So all the appliances, the dishwasher, the clothes washing machine upstairs, they were the most efficient available at the time that I replaced them. But now I need to confess to my biggest mistake and swap sides with you guys. Please. When the Premier came, go over there, somebody said, and we had the launch here, somebody said, oh, can you turn those off please, Miss Columbia? Excellent. Somebody said, did you put a grate under the fridge? And my nerves hard to see stuff. It turns out if I put a grate underneath the fridge to harvest, to bring up cold air from below the house, which is always cold, you hear the fridge on? Yeah. I could have increased the efficiency of that old fridge by 25%. If we were in the Arctic, we wouldn't need a fridge, we just need a cupboard. because it's so cold. So a fridge works harder or less hard depending on the outside air temperature. So that old fridge was actually consuming all of my 18 solar panels at the time. Now I've got a really efficient fridge. There's a wonderful app that you can use called energyrating.gov.au. It lists all the fridges, freezers, dishwashers, clothes washers on the market according to their energy efficiency. When you're buying a fridge which is on 24/7, you want to work out not just the cost to buy, but the cost to own. So you might buy a $1,000 fridge thinking that's a better buy than a $1,500 fridge. But 3 months later, that $1,000 fridge will have cost you $2,000 because of the amount of energy it chews up. And the energyrating.gov.au site helps you make a more informed buying decision about that. So, on my blog, there are designs for harvesting the cold air below houses, not just to cool the fridge down, but to also cool the whole house down. If you go to ancient cultures, Persia, places like that, the Mediterranean, places like that, they all harvest cold air as part of the design, as part of the way they do things. But it's not taught so much in engineering and agriculture. Now to more cheery side. If I put my hand here, imagine it's on top of all the water that falls here. If it all fell at once, it'd be 1.2 metres. I've kept all that water here. If you've been here during a Sydney East Coast low and you think the only thing missing from your life is a dark, because there's so much water in the world that you're in. Think of this house as you see those rivers of water flow down the gutters and know that none of that water is leaving this house and none is left here in 20 years. So I'm going to go and see how we keep stormwater here. Basically, no sewage or stormwater left here in 20 years. I'll keep 2 million litres of stormwater here, 2 million litres of sewage. So if you like fish, you're going to love the fish. Keep the stuff out of the water they breathe. So if you can lead the way, we'll follow you out the back and we'll look at things out the back. By the time the water's risen to this point, the roof and the gutters have been washed clean, and that clean water is diverted to the tank which is below the deck standing on. Oh, there's a parrot here. Can you hear it? Yeah. Isn't that gorgeous? Hello, parrot. So all that this is doing is just slowing the water down, and that's it. That's what's giving you water, cleaner than town water. From this point it goes to a 10,000 litre tank, concrete tank with a concave roof, to support the weight of the deck. So see the tank next door? That's 5,000 litres, so it's twice the size of that. Before I continue with the water, I just want to draw attention to my lovely ladies here. These lovely little things are bees. And bees account for about 60% of our food, because they pollinate. I've got these stingless bees. They don't make much honey, maybe 500 grams a year, compared to a commercial hive with us. When I learnt that the house was trivial, that this takes 20 to 40 times more energy, I started to grow food here. And because there's not much diversity here, I got the bees here, and they go about 2 to 4 city blocks. So if you probably notice in the street, there's lots of plants. We've got fruit trees, herbs and plants, and they increase the resilience of the plants in the street. Cool, eh? Or sideways through the cracks in the wall. Isn't that cool? So down there's still absorption capacity. It's so simple. Can I just invite you, when you're thinking and creating and designing, to remember the words from Star Wars. Luke, feel the Force, be the Force. The way I design with water is, I say, Mike, feel the water, be the drip. And that's how I came across it. I be the drip. I imagine where the drip would go and how it would behave. Be the drip. What's your name, man? Ella. Angelo, Yanni, and Cash. some days you get lucky. You're lucky. You're standing above us. Do you hear the bubbling noise? Faith? Air is being pumped through the sewage like in a fish tank. And what that's doing is it's imparting oxygen to the sewage, like in our tummies. The blood is carrying the oxygen to our tummies and increasing the efficiency with which our tummies break down food. So those free millions of little things are eating up the sewage, are helping to break down the sewage. And that's recycled to flush the toilet and wash the clothes. So that's how I kept my sewage. When the sewage overflows, it overflows a metre down over here on the other side of this pump thing. So that is where my surplus sewage is absorbed on site. It's a clay soil which has low absorption capacity. What's happened, I think, I haven't been down to check it out, I think the air and the water is changing the composition of the clay. It's creating life and changing the composition of the clay to a more absorptive medium, little worms and all that sort of things. And behind you there, you can see I've turned the fence, instead of it being a one-dimensional, single-function fence, into multi-dimensional, so I'm growing things. I would grow more, but the jacaranda tree takes all the shade. And finally, if you turn your back to me, no falling in the drink, you can see the solar panels up at the far roof, and here, they're doing two things. From the direct sunlight, the rooms are now about 4 degrees cooler because of the shade cast on them by the solar panels. Crazy guy, you know, trying to do a good thing, and 24% of the landmass is heating the air up around his house by these people, these cowboys, designing and maintaining roads. I don't like it. I don't like it. It's interesting, isn't it? This is government behaving badly. This is somebody trying to do good. And cities are up to 8 to 10 degrees hotter than they need be because of dark roads, dark roofs, and no tree cover. It's amazing, isn't it? It's amazing, don't you think? So I invite you all just to put your hands on the bitumen. It will be 70, maybe 80 degrees now, and it will hold that heat during the night and release it, and it kills young babies and old people. Because what we're doing is we're measuring that temperature 24/7, taking a reading it 3 meters up every 5 minutes. Isn't that cool? So what we're trying to do is provide the data to show what can be achieved with a cool road medium. Yeah? So, in summary, the house that you've seen is 20 years old. People have lived here, even with young kids, with a washing machine going every day for less than $300 a year. Everything you've seen, you can buy and have on your job next week. It's all ordinary. It can withstand being owned, quote unquote, maintained by dope like me. Anybody can do it. It's really, the only thing stopping it is passion. It's cheaper to do it. So I'd say, if I multiply 20 by say 2,000 to 4,000, I've saved at least $40,000 to $80,000 a year here with energy and water bills. So it's cheaper. And just to wind up on a note of hope, I'm going to invite you to do something that you can do every day. I want to give this to you because you're working so hard. Who Gives a Crap is saving the world one bum at a time. It's an Australian company. Almost 99% of toilet papers rely on new trees, growing trees being killed, cut down to make toilet paper. Why would we wipe our bums with that stuff when we can use recycled paper? And they give half their profits to providing clean water for children and providing amenities, particularly for women in countries where they don't have any looting privacy and they account for it all. So that's for you to take home. And consider that they deliver. They use recycled paper, no stuff that goes in waters, you know, bleaches and stuff like that. So you can do this stuff even though you're a tenant and even though you don't have much money. Just, you know, you buy food, buy local food, and buy things like toilet paper that are not going to do any damage. You don't have to graduate before you can do good. You can do it tonight or tomorrow once you buy it. Buy local food from farmers direct or from farmers markets, and think about what sort of toilet paper you're going to use.
Wondering on those Japanese toilets, whether the dance and the heating.
Yeah. Yes, there are those sorts of toilets. If you want to receive my newsletter, you can write your email very clearly, please, on the things. If you want to buy books, I've got an F+ machine. If you want to find what I do, they're proud of it. Some people think that I am the end of civilization. There's about a few people. It's quite interesting because they're cool, but they think I'm the end of civilization. It's quite interesting.
What about these guys right next door to you?
They're fine.
They've got a water tank. So
Yeah, they're fine, yeah.
And any issues, because you've got the joining wall,
Yeah.
does that affect?
No, people get it. You know, it's just, it tends to be old people, or people who are, there's always some people who don't like change, you know. They don't get the connection between harvesting rainwater and they might go and buy fish. Well, fish are swimming in their excreta. Fish are ingesting, if seafood is your main source of protein, you will ingest 500 grams of plastic. They're so small when you use it. It's in shampoos, detergents and other things, these microbeads. They're so small that they're now part of the flesh of most of the fish we eat. So people don't get it, that, you know, what goes down the drain tonight when they're washing up actually gets ingested by fish in the next few days. It becomes part of their body and you know, it's just, I don't get it. So it's tough to be criticised. It's tough to have people say that I'm, you know, against all that's good for society. But if you want to make change, it doesn't matter where you go, there'll be people who say that about you. Thanks for that question. Yes, sir.
I love this and huge fan. Like when I build a house, I want to completely build it off the grid.
Yep.
So like from your experience now, like if someone actually decides to build a completely off the grid thing, how much would it cost?
All these things in '96 cost me $48,000. It was my first go, and now I can do it for about 20. If you spend 20, you'll pay it off in about 4 to 8 years. And in a sense, I've paid for my energy up front. I've paid for my water up front. There are some places that you can go. I speak very highly of IKEA. I think they have 70 million people with cars. And they go right back to the cotton farmers in India and other places. And they support their growers and manufacturers to grow without pesticides, to grow sustainably. So there are a few businesses which are completely ethical, from the growing production to the recycling. It's quite interesting to go to somebody like IKEA. You can actually recycle mattresses. You can recycle a whole range of things. And the only lights they sell are LED lights. So there are examples of corporate responsibility. So that when you go to IKEA, yes, you're buying a mattress, but you're buying a mattress that is completely sourced from recycled other materials. So it doesn't have to cost you more in a lot of things that you buy. You can buy appliances, but choose ones which are made from recycled materials.
Also, IKEA is one of the worst tax avoiders in the EU.
It is, and I've been critical of it for that reason. But in terms of the materials, they have, I think, 30,000 people go through their shop out of Alexandria on a weekend. Everything they buy is sustainably produced. They do not pay tax in Australia, so you know, hospitals, roads, they're living for free off that. But in terms of their, I think they've got 600 stores. Every piece of cotton and waste is all sourced sustainably. I agree with you. I agree with your criticism. Thank you for that. And we don't have the time to achieve perfection. We have to do this stuff because the planet is crying out for people such as you, particularly people such as you, because you're the professionals and people are learning to do stuff like this. So go and talk about me as much as you like.
I have two questions.
Yes?
The first question is, what was the moment in your life that you got this insight and say, okay, this is what I want to do and I want to start the change for myself? And the second question, have you, for example, helped other house owners to do this?
Yeah, that's what I do.
Okay.
That's my work. The first question is, I did it, and I strongly urge you to think of this in your careers. I did it because engineers, architects, and almost anybody I spoke to said you can't do that. As soon as you hear you can't do that, question whether or not what they're really saying is, I can't do that. I'm afraid of trying and I don't want you to try. So I thank the engineers who told me I couldn't do it. It was a childish reaction being told I couldn't do it. Good question, so thank you. You can stay in touch through my website and so on. And thank you to the university leaders for introducing you to my house.
That's before, yeah.